On today's podcast, we'll talk about what DPs look for in an operator, making the jump from operator to DP, Idiocracy, The Doors, and of course, always having a shot in your back pocket. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Margaret. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Op, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I'm Dave Comides, your host, and today we're actually coming to you from the Picture Shop, which is a color timing theater, because my guest, cinematographer Jeff Greeley, was here timing an episode of a new TV show called Dark Matter, and they allowed us to hang out here and talk afterwards. Jeff has been a camera operator and is now a DP on such things as a cinematographer, Dark Matter, Goliath, Castle Rock, Snowfall, Manhattan, which is the best show that nobody's ever seen. As an operator, a couple of things he did: Silicon Valley, Manhattan, Idiocracy, which I absolutely want to ask you about, Little Miss Sunshine, and just because it's cool to say, as a second AC, he was on The Doors. Jeff, thanks for being here.
No problem, Dave. Happy to be here.
And I think that's all the time we have today.
Clearly, I'm one of your most honored guests.
Honored guests. Jeff and I go back quite a ways, and it pains me to say this on the record, but he was an excellent camera operator, and he is now an excellent cinematographer, even though I give him crap all the time for both. But my first question for you is, at what point did you realize that you would never be as good as I was and decided you had to become a cinematographer? Is there a moment that you remember?
I don't know exactly when it hit me, but it was pretty early on.
Okay, yeah, I understand. It happens to a lot of people. But I'm glad you succeeded. No, but I don't know. What did we work? When was the first time we worked in Chicago?
Probably in Chicago, but one of my key memories of you is we were on Manhattan.
Okay.
With Tommy Schlamme.
Again, the best TV show that nobody has ever seen.
Right, and we were they were struggling. We were A and B camera, and they were struggling to come up with a shot.
I know the story you're talking
about. It was at night, and you and I were standing back watching the director and the DP try and figure out how to shoot the scene.
Yep.
And both of us kind of looked at each other and we were like, oh, I know what we should do here. And we didn't say anything. We just watched them struggle for a while.
Yep.
And then one of us, I don't even remember who it was.
I think we talked about who should be the person to
I think we did. I think we had a plan.
Yeah.
And we went in and said, hey, guys, what about if we started here and we pulled back and blah, blah, blah. And they looked at us and like, oh, yeah, that's a really good idea. And then I remember we were talking with Tommy Schlamme about it later. And he said something about that, and we were like, well, yeah, Tommy, as an operator, you always got to have a shot in your back pocket.
The back pocket. I remember this.
And he was incensed.
He was
incensed that we would hold out.
We would hold back.
And we were like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, we got to keep it, and you don't just throw it out there early on.
But I also remember the look on his face at that moment was sort of bewilderment, and then it was sort of like, you're kidding me. And we were like, well, you gotta take your shots.
Well, and it's a good thing for operators out there. You've got to know your timing on when you give someone an idea.
Yep.
If you go too early, like in that case, say we had thrown that idea out at the beginning, they might have been like, oh, that's a terrible idea.
Let us figure this out. Go sit down.
But after they'd struggled for a while and you could see the break in the action, and okay, well, maybe they want a different idea.
Yep.
We also were in the advantage that we knew them very well, and
of course.
And we had their trust already, so that there's a different level. But I think it also is just smart for operators going into it. You got to read the room and figure out when the time is, or if there is a time, to sell your idea of the shot, right?
100%. And by the way, that's a perfect example, because that's a great director who doesn't need usually help.
No.
But at the same time, He's in the thick of it with the actors trying to figure it out, and we're sitting back on the sidelines just watching everything. So we get a much easier view of trying to figure it out, which is what, I don't know, I mean, as operators, I think you always do. You go into the rehearsal and you figure out in your head, this is how I would shoot it. And it may not be the way you're going to shoot it, but it's like, all right, I got to go to, and now we're going to figure out what they want, and now I can eventually get it back to what I want.
Correct.
Which is what I do with you as a cinematographer. But jumping to farther ahead there, how'd you get into the business? What's your story?
I got into the business. I went to Skidmore College in upstate New York. I was a art and photography student.
Well, I didn't know that.
And art history and photography. And photography I love, but I wanted to get into cinematography. So I moved out to Los Angeles, and I didn't literally know a soul.
Yeah.
And I thought I want to get in it. I didn't really even know how to start. I just had a random name of my dad's ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, who was a line producer.
This story.
And I called him up, and I said, "Hey, she had told him about me, and he says, "Well, I'm line producing this movie." I went in to meet him. What do you want to do? So I want to be in the camera department. He said, "Oh, well, I can get you on as a camera PA. It's unpaid." I was like, "Great!" And it was that movie, Internal Affairs, with Richard Gere and Andy Garcia. John Alonzo shot it.
Who directed it?
Was that Michael Figgis?
It could have been.
Yes, Michael Figgis, I think, directed it.
Yeah.
This was early. This was 1989,
Something
probably.
like that. Wow, your first movie, you're working.
My first movie, and it was John Alonzo, and I was
cool.
I was the camera intern.
You remember who the operator was?
It was Pernell Tias.
Pernell Tias.
And Greg Smith was the second assistant
Greg
cameraman.
Smith was the second
And Hobby
assistant.
Jordan was the focus puller.
Oh my gosh!
So I got in with this great group of people right off the bat, and I was the sort of unpaid camera intern. But in those days, it's like Greg was teaching me. It was just a second. There was no loader. There was no intern or anything. So he's like, "Oh great, I'll teach him how to load. Then I don't have to load anymore." So I was doing like so much work.
That's great.
So I did that show, and that show became. They struck that show, and it was during the time of the strikes.
Yeah.
So everybody had to walk off the show,
Yeah.
except for me, because I was not in the union, and
Okay.
the cameraman, John Alonzo, because he was what they called financial core back then.
Okay.
And so they didn't fire him. Everybody walked.
Everybody walked.
They brought in a crew from Texas.
Oh, no way.
Gary J was the focus puller.
Wow.
And Don Reddy, because they were not in the union. They were not part of 600, 659, 695, whatever.
Oh, because it wasn't a national union yet.
Right, it wasn't national.
Oh, I didn't even know they could do that.
Yeah, they brought them in, and there was picket lines. And I'd be going to work. So I was like my third week in the show. They made me the second assistant. I didn't have no idea what I was doing. I was suddenly running around. And Nate Goodman was one of the first assistants too.
No way.
Now a DP.
Wow. All these names.
Oh yeah, we go way back. So anyway,
Wait,
this goes on.
Did people give you flack for staying, or was it understood?
No,
because
in fact,
you
the
were...
camera department told me I should stay.
So to keep things together,
Well, they just said it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm not taking anyone's. I wasn't taking anyone's job really. So anyway, after a few weeks, they got the regular crew back in.
Yeah.
And we did the show, and then John Alonzo took me on his next show, which was going to be non-union.
Okay.
And I was the second assistant, and after the second week, it rolled over, and I got in the union.
What show was that?
That was called The Guardian.
Man,
that was directed by Bill Friedkin.
Wow.
And that was non-union. So I've been in LA like 4 months, and I got in the union. So it was really just it just was like a crazy turn of events. And I was with this cameraman who was pretty well known, famous, Chinatown, Scarface, all that, Harold and Maude. And I did like 10, 15 years with him until he passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was a second, a first, and he moved me up to operator. And he also got me some little projects to shoot when I was an operator.
I'll tell you, my two John Alonzo stories are, he was the DP on the first thing I ever did, which was Tremors, but I was doing miniature visual effects. And they wanted us to go out to Magic Mountain one night to work with First Unit to get some measurements on something. And so I was like, can I go? I was the PA. And they were like, yeah. And I remember, I think I said hello to him, and it was a bad time, and I didn't know what I was doing, and he kind of chewed me. He's like, "Who the hell is this?" And like, he wanted nothing to do with me. And then years later, he was the DP on the live movie Failsafe.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning an Emmy for that. But actually, as I got to know him, and he's a wonderful guy.
George Clooney.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. Like 30 cameras. He's an absolutely wonderful guy, and he was so he was so giving and talking to him at lunch and whatever, he just talk about stuff and whatever. And I mentioned it to him once, and he was like, I don't remember that, but I'm sorry. I was just like, yeah, no problem. I was probably in the wrong place at the wrong time. But then he ended up winning the Emmy for shooting that.
Yeah.
And he got up and he named every single camera person by name. He named the gaffer, the key grip, like everybody who was involved. It was quite impressive. And he was a good guy.
The thing about John Alonzo that doesn't really happen now, or it happened maybe more then, was he was the kind of guy, if you were the first assistant and we were about to go on a shot, he'd hand you the meter and go, what are you going to shoot it at?
Really?
And he'd send you out there with the meter,
Wow.
and you'd hold it around, you'd sort of wave it around, go, 2.8?
That's really cool.
And he'd say, why? And you'd be like, well, it says 2.8 right here. And you'd be like, well, where are you?
Yeah.
And he'd make you think about,
like, where's your key?
He would teach you.
That's great.
And this, of course, is in the film days, and the lighting. But the other thing, my first time I met John, very similar thing, on Internal Affairs, day one, Greg Smith says, go see if the DP, John, wants some coffee. I said, oh, okay. So I go up to him, and he said, kid, give me some. He grabs out his mug that was like a ceramic custom mug that said John A. Alonzo ASC on it, and he hands it to me and he says, "Yeah, give me some coffee with some Equal in it. 1 packet of Equal." I'm like, okay. So I grabbed this thing. I didn't even know what Equal was. I ran to the catering truck, and it was, of course, they were kind of closed in between breakfast and lunch.
Yep.
I'm like, hey guys, can I get some coffee? He's like, yeah, sure. And I, can I get some Equal? And they're like, yes, sorry, we don't have any Equal. I said, how about Sweet and Low? They're like, okay, here. So I took the Sweet and Low. I put a package of Sweet and Low
I can see where this is going.
in it. And I'm so nervous. Like my first day on the show, I come running up to him and say, John, Mr. Alonzo, sir, here's your coffee. And he said, oh, thanks, kid. And he takes it. I remember we were outside. We were downtown LA in front of the, the big government building.
I know what you're talking about.
City Hall.
Yeah,
in front of City Hall. Right on those steps there. that big thing.
Yep,
steps.
I know exactly.
And he grabs it.
Scene.
He takes and he looks at me and he spits it on the ground. And he hands the coffee back to me. He goes, "Don't ever try and fool me a Sweet and Low again."
That's fantastic.
I was like, oh no. So that night, on my way home, I went to the supermarket and I bought a huge thing of Equal.
Okay.
And that is where.
Second piece of the podcast that everybody should remember, that might be the most important thing you say today, actually.
Right. I went and I got a thing of Equal and I kept it. I kept a bunch of them in my pocket and the rest of them on the truck. And anytime I had to get them coffee,
oh yeah,
I wasn't getting caught out by the caterer, or it's the same thing, or the grips in a camera grip situation, or whatever.
You don't want to get caught with your pants down.
Right.
And if it happens once by accident, that's on them. Or if it happens twice, that's on you. There's no question.
You have to, and I think as
really
a younger
good,
person coming up, that's a good thing. It's a kind of a good learning
100%
idea. And I've used that same to like younger people in the camera department that like say a loader or a utility or something. And sometimes if someone's not really quite cutting it, I did this in Chicago, a certain person, and I told them this story.
Yeah.
And as a way of saying, this is, you got to be proactive.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what you got to do in this business.
It's
you and I, of course, know that, but sometimes people don't quite understand that.
No, and I think, look, if there are two people who are moving on their way up and one of them has Equal and one of them doesn't, guess who's getting the next call? I mean, it's that simple, right?
That simple.
Do you want to take a moment to tell everybody how you like your coffee, just in case they end up working with you?
Black. I'm pretty easy.
There you go. Okay.
But it's got to be espresso.
Oh, okay. Well,
a double.
There's got to be something fancy. Some steam has to be used on some level. No, that's a great story too. So you worked with him for 15 years?
Yeah, about 12, 15 years.
So did you? But you never operated.
I operated for him.
He
moved me up to operator.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He moved me up to an operator on a job. It was Lansky. It was the Meyer Lansky. It was an HBO story.
Oh, no way.
I was his first.
Uh-huh.
Mark Figueroa was my second for a long time.
Yep.
He moved me up to operator, so Mark moved with me to focus puller.
That's cool.
And we did this Meyer Lansky show. I'm sorry. Mark did. Yeah, I did B camera. I operated B camera. Frank Pearl operated A camera.
I was going to say, and Fig went
Fig
to
did A camera.
Did he go to? Because usually you don't want to move
I can't
two people
remember.
up together.
I'd have to ask Mark.
Yeah.
But I don't remember how that went. But
anyway.
then one of the beauties of that job was I got to shoot in Jerusalem.
No
at the
way.
end of the show for 2 weeks, and it was only me that went. I just went with John by myself. And anyway, it was one of those things where I learned so much from John because he's a teacher. You
Yeah,
know, and
obviously.
And that's like and it's hard these days. Like I try and do it at work, and I try and take time. But the schedules,
No, there's no time.
It's so hard
Yeah.
to find. And I always tell like interns or utilities or loaders, ask me questions when it seems like a good time. And I think sometimes they're not, they don't feel comfortable or whatever. But I try and get people
I
to
know
do
on
that.
Justified, which you and I did, we had those 2 interns, and I did the same thing because I always do that. And after the first couple of days, like they were in the back of the room, and I went up to them and I was like,
Brianna.
and I forget his name.
They actually worked on Dark Matter.
Did they?
They're both in the union now.
Oh, good.
They're both.
That's
got in the
amazing.
union, they're in Dark
But I
Matter,
remember going up to him and going, remember we said to ask questions? Like, you're not asking questions. Oh, okay. And then they come up occasionally, and I just sort of accost them and go, you got to be asking more questions. Yeah. So it was a long time ago, so this probably isn't a fair question, but I don't really care. When you moved up, I mean, granted, obviously
From what to what?
From assisting to operating, like your first time operating.
Yeah.
I mean, as a full-time gig, I'm sure he probably threw you on the camera occasionally up to lens. Or, you're in a situation which is protected, right? In the sense that he's gonna not, he's not over there with the hatchet over, even though he expects you to do good work. Do you remember what the biggest hurdle was of being a B camera operator for the first time?
I think when you first move up to operator, you're just trying to keep the head in the box.
Yeah, there's that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just so overwhelmed with the actor in front of you and their movement.
Yep.
And you don't want them to pop out of the top of frame, or or they're going to stand up and you're absolutely petrified on a stand up or something, that they're just going to go whoop right at the top of frame. I think that's probably, and I can remember John sometimes yelling at me, like if I was doing a shot, keep him on the left side of screen, or keep him on the right, don't let him, like, because you're just trying to, don't let him get to the center of the screen. Just keep him on the left, on a pan or something.
I guess the reality is the answer might be that at that point you don't even know what you don't know yet. You're just trying not to get fired. Yeah. Yeah,
and it helps, obviously, I would say, and of course you know this, when you are moving up, to have somebody in your corner that's above you is indispensable. As like I've moved up people from assistant to operator.
Yeah.
And Jessica Laycock, for example.
Sure.
And so then, like, I was there kind of keeping an eye on what shots she did, not kind of overloading her until she got better. Of course, now she's like operator to the stars, doing all kinds of big shows.
Yep.
But you know what I mean? It helps to have somebody in your corner that is watching out for you. But
well, and also, by the way, and surrounding you, right? Like you're a good dolly grip, who you can go, hey, let's put the low mode on here, and the dolly grip's like, no, we're not putting low.
That's not the way to do the shot.
This is the way to do it.
I mean, and also in those days, of course, remember to turn the camera on. That was a big
And
one.
actually, my big thing was off. On, I was really good. With off was.
It's right here.
Which isn't as important, but still not great.
Now it doesn't matter because the assistant does it, and you don't even have control of the switch.
It's a whole different story. And then, so how long did you sort of B camera before you got a shot on A camera?
That's an interesting question. Well, I remember I did a couple shows for John, B camera, and then he let me do A camera. And I was, there's a lot of wheels work at that time, and in between there, I shot some crappy movie,
you mean
low budget movie
as a DP.
Yeah. And I got the wheels, and I operated for myself, and I just used the wheels the entire time.
Nice.
So that's how I learned how to use the wheels, because I knew no one could yell at me for screwing up on them.
Yeah.
So that when the wheels came up on set, I was fairly proficient, and as the years went on, I got really good at it.
Gotcha.
But you know what I mean? So John got me the first A camera gig as well. And he also got me this little PBS movie to shoot during that time.
That's amazing.
I mean,
Wow.
He was just a great.
It's so funny. I've known you so long. I had no idea that connection existed, or that was there. Working backwards, just because I mentioned and I want to hear about it. What was it like to work on The Doors?
On The Doors? Oh my God, it was so long ago. It was, I have to say that in today's world with HR, I'm not sure that movie could have gotten made. I mean, it was a whole different style of filmmaking. It was great. It was my third movie.
That was your third movie?
Third movie. I was the B camera second.
Unbelievable.
On that movie. And
who shot that? Was that Richardson?
Bob Richardson.
Bob Richardson.
And, who was very intense.
Yes.
And who's an amazing DP, but you got to have your A game. I barely had a D game at that point.
That's what I was going to ask.
So it was just, you know, it was fun. It was really a learning experience.
Was it kind of amazing being able to sit there and watch someone like Val Kilmer do what Val Kilmer was doing in that movie?
Oh yeah, it was great.
And
well, we also shot, and it was like shooting a music video every day.
Right.
We shot so much concert stuff.
And he just became that character.
Oh,
That's incredible.
And I learned so much, like in terms of like super intense, like as an assistant, you know, as a second, you're standing behind the camera, no eye contact.
Yeah.
You know, the actors, you got to be, in those days, you had to be so careful, right? And
Yep.
it was just such a different deal. You had these big mags, you run into the truck, we're doing concert footage, you got film going everywhere.
Oh, that's right. You're going through it like crazy.
Oh my God, the loader was, you know, Dan Turek was the loader. I mean, we had a great group of people, and again, it was the Carlsons, Don and Rob, who were the assistants, who were. Don Carlson at that time was the biggest thing going.
Don Carlson was the assistant on that thing in Chicago too that we did.
Yeah, he was. That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, so it was a great learning experience.
That's really cool. That's amazing. You were the operator on Idiocracy.
Yeah, for a couple seasons. Yeah.
Wait, Idiocracy was a TV show? No.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant Silicon Valley.
No.
Yes, I was. I was the A-camera operator.
That was the movie Mike Judge.
Yes,
All right, my
Mike
first
Judge.
question is this. From what I understand from people, Mike Judge, when he's really excited, sounds like either Beavis or Butthead. Is that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he does all those characters.
Those characters. But I mean, apparently, like, he subconsciously sort of does that.
Yeah, that movie is now like it's like a sleeper sort of predictor of the future.
Well,
it's crazy.
It's a predictor of today. I mean, it's like a documentary. It's really quite frightening.
I remember Mike is, you know, he's obviously super creative, but I remember one thing that I always remember, we were doing some insert, and in the insert it was like to read back something that had been written down, like a line of dialogue.
Like you're panning across
So
it.
you're panning across the dialogue so the audience can read it. So I pan across, and Mike's like, oh, Jeff, slow that way down. My audience is real stupid. They don't read very well. So I had to slow it down and really creep the camera.
You end up putting the finger in there to follow.
Like the bouncing ball from
That's
karaoke.
classic.
It's like they don't read real quick.
So a movie like that, when you're making a movie like that, did that just seem like this is going to be horrible? Because it feels to me like one of those movies that making it, you know, you wouldn't know whether it was going to be good or not.
It is a little over the top.
Yeah.
You know, when you get the president comes out with his Jerry curl and everything.
Totally.
And, you know, but I don't remember. It was an enjoyable movie to make. We had a lot of fun. It was in Austin, Texas.
Sure.
In the heat. That was the only hard part.
Oh,
And, you know, I have my assistant, Mark Figueroa, was the A focus puller. And we had a good time making that movie.
That's great.
You know, it was a lot of fun. But no one knew it would have the
well, that's why I asked.
The legs
because
that it has.
I mean, how many things have you worked on where you're like, this is horrible, and it turns into something that's just a cult classic, and vice versa, right? This is going to be unbelievable, and it just gets butchered, and that's the way it goes.
There's no predictor.
There's none whatsoever.
As I like to say, you can't make a good movie from a bad script, but you can really screw up.
You can really screw up. Yeah, there's no question about that. When you were doing B camera, just thoughts on working with the A camera operator. Like, you go into rehearsal, right? What are you doing?
Well, if his name's Dave Comides, you set your camera up kind of where you're pretty sure it's in his shot.
Yeah, no, that goes without saying.
And you get a big dolly track in his shot, and you kind of get there because he's gone off and he's not paying attention, and he's like at the craft service. So while he goes to craft service, you tell your dolly, go, lay me a big track right here.
Or the other way you do it is you go before Dave wakes up from the corner, get that track down.
He's napping.
All right, there's some truth to that. I'm not going to lie. I'll take my knocks.
So wait, what's the question?
But no. You know, so the private rehearsal is over. Yeah. Everybody gets pulled in. Yeah. Your A camera operator obviously is probably standing next to your DP and talking or whatever. Yeah. What are you doing as the B camera operator?
Well, okay, here's a good example. When I did a bunch of B camera for John Lindley, who we both know very well, and I remember I came in on B camera. I didn't even know John on Bewitched.
Oh yeah.
And Henry Klein was the A camera operator, and it's a huge movie, right? Over at Sony, and John didn't know me, and you know John in that situation, he's not the most welcoming, really. You're kind of a little bit higher up than dirt. But
I'll be
much.
Cutting John's quote in right here, but go ahead.
But not much. And I remember, you know, you're sort of watching, and I did a couple shots, and he said, Jeff, you come over here and do, okay, great, you do this. And I could see him getting a little bit of confidence in me. And then I remember at one point there, like you said, they were over there talking about a shot, and I saw what I thought was a really great shot.
Yeah.
And after they were all done, I said, hey, John, what about this? Come over here. What if I'm over here behind this and you see that? He's like, oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
And I did the shot, and I tell you from that moment on,
Yeah.
he's like, Jeff, when we're rehearsing, just go
Just
find me
something.
Just find me
Find me
something.
something. Because he could trust
And once, and I think that's very true for me as a DP now.
Uh-huh.
Once I have the trust in that operator,
Yep.
it goes a long way. But you can blow that trust too. But
Well-
but that's where I got to with John, and then of course, we all worked together for years with John,
Yeah.
and we still do. So, but I think that's the way I like to have a B. I always like to do B camera, and in fact, I thought a lot of times it was more fun than A camera, because especially in my day, I didn't do Steadicam, so I obviously didn't. Then they got to this thing where they always made the A camera the Steadicam guy, and which I thought was BS.
Yeah, sure.
But because anyway, and we can get into that later.
We can talk
later
about that in
episode.
therapy later.
But the B camera enjoyable thing is when you can sort of create your own shots. If you're just the DP, I've been both. I've done both with the DPs. Like Jeff, you're over here tighter on a 75. All right, fine.
Yeah.
It's just not, your brain is completely switched off.
Yep.
But if your brain is on and you can make your own, you see something that can help tell the story,
Yeah.
and you're smart and you're not going into the side of the light where it's going to be flat, that's a key thing,
Yep.
right? You got to understand lighting a bit. Then I think it's a lot of fun doing B camera. And you stay out of the A camera's way. And
Yeah.
I typically, depending on my relationship, I wouldn't really go to the A camera operator. I would go to the DP.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it gets a little political there.
Basically,
but-
would you go to? You'd only go to the A camera operator if there was an ego reason to do that. If they needed to hear it from you first, kind of thing.
Something
'Cause
like that.
it does happen. I mean,
It does happen,
Where they
which
don't want,
I
they don't want to be
find-
shut out.
Which is, I think, a little ridiculous.
I
to be
do.
honest.
I'm not saying
personally in my.
but
I don't
it's
let that go
reality.
down on my sets now, but
Yeah.
there is plenty of guys out there
Yeah.
that is a thing.
It's usually, and it usually comes from probably insecurity. But
Usually, it's from insecurity.
I've said this. I got to start counting it at some point. This may be the 7th time I've said this, but you will understand this of all people. What I always like to say is Patrick Rousseau on Snowfall.
Yeah.
Jess and I would set up this shot that's like, all right, the helicopter comes in and I jump down with Steadicam and I run through the house and then I go up to the top. The helicopter picks me back up and you're walking around going, this is the best shot ever. And then Patrick's like waiting behind a garbage can for them to move something and has a shot that tells the whole story in one thing. And I'm like, this I shouldn't even do.
He did Goliath season 3, the first half for me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
1 through
Okay.
4 after Snowfall.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were in this, we did this whole big thing, a lot of casino work in this casino we built. And we set up this big thing, episode 1, Billy Bob walking in, he goes around, comes in, same thing like you're describing. And this, I think it was Steadicam. And, we did this big deal.
Is that Jody Miller?
Is Jody Miller.
Yeah.
And we did this big Steadicam thing. And Patrick, he's like, hey, Jeff, what about this? I said, yeah, it's great, Patrick, do that. And I'm watching them, I'm like, Patrick's shot told the same story on a dolly with like 8 feet of track,
Yeah.
and it was fantastic. And he's one of the best B camera operators I've ever had.
Yeah,
now he's a DP,
he's now
of
a
course,
DP.
which sucks.
But
for
you know,
me, not for him.
But I think there's a lot to that because what he used to do so well was he watched what everything was going on. He figured out first where can I be that's not going to be in the way and is going to be fine for the DP.
Right.
And then he would just figure out how to tell the story from there. And
Yeah.
and it wasn't obviously not always it would tell the story, but there was always something where it was just like this is the important piece that's missing.
Yeah.
And he was just so. And the big thing was it was always. I mean, with him it was always quiet. It'd be sort of like, hey Jeff, does this work over? Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
But you don't get to that point without a lot of experience.
No, absolutely not.
And I would not recommend that for someone who's starting out
Yep.
as an
That's a
operator and
good
gets
point.
a job as B camera to go there because there's probably a lot of things you don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like what drives me nuts as a DP when I have B camera, and a lot of times, I go on location, I bring the A camera, Steadicam with me. We have some B camera who's a local who's maybe doesn't have the same kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as good. And hey, Jeff, what about this? And especially now they all got their phones with the thing on it.
Artemis and, yep,
Artemis, and they've
yep.
taken a picture. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, well, it's completely flat.
Yeah.
Like the light is, no, we can't do that. Like you're wasting my time. Like you got to have,
Yeah.
look, the light's coming,
Yeah.
so you got to understand that part too. And if you do that too many times with DP, the DP is going to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
So, and then you lose trust in him. So I think it's one of those things where
Start slow.
yeah, stay ahead, say nothing.
Yeah,
Sometimes. I mean,
yeah.
it's really I find that like I do that when I get a job as a DP and I'm sitting in a room with directors and producers and actors and they're all talking about they're going to do this. At the beginning, I'm very quiet.
Yep.
I got to read the room first. I want to see who's really got the power here.
Yeah.
You got to figure out who's got the ideas before I go in there with like, I think we should make it all red, or something. And they're like, what? And next thing you know, you're on the way out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you got to
absolutely.
be really careful when you pitch your ideas and who you pitch them to.
But that's the whole business, right?
The whole business.
Is reading the room. And actually, I will
Yeah.
say this, which again, it's hard for me to compliment you. Just throwing it out there.
Come on, Dave. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I was going to start it with something negative, but I'm not even going to do that. No, but you always were so much better at the politics of all this, and like you said, just shut up. You just let it all play. And again, that opening discussion, which we were both in that situation, that opening story is a perfect example of just like, no, I'm just going to sit back here and let this go and let this go. And then when they get a little tired and they're, then I'm going to take it out of the back pocket and throw it down and boom. And then I look like, but and if it had been, like you said, if you had gone and read the beginning as they're going, what about, and you're like, I have a better idea, then it's not going to fly. And you were always very good at that.
If you're gonna do that, you better be damn sure your idea is better than
Absolutely.
theirs. You got to
Yeah.
be one. If you're gonna throw out an idea, you
But
better be
even
right.
even that said, if your idea is better, but it comes at the point where
That they're gonna
someone's in
shoot
a
it down.
different frame of mind, it's not going to
and
happen.
they'll never get back to that idea.
It's exactly right. It'll be basically like, all right, we're now going to do the exact opposite of
We're
that.
gonna do anything but that.
Simply because it didn't come from the right place. Yeah, there's no question about it. So then what do you, as a DP, what do you look for in an A camera operator?
I'd say that it's interesting. There's different kinds of operators. And I think a little bit of it depends on the kind of show you're doing, who the
Sure.
director is,
Yep.
what they want out of it. There's operators that are really good at moving the camera from A to B to C to D, dealing with the cast, with the dolly grip, even with the director, and with me. And then there are operators, A-camera operators, who are more of, they're there, and it's more of a collaboration with me and the director. But it's a certain level of, like with you, it's really, it becomes a collaboration. Like, let's tell the story this way. Or once I have really trust in an operator, like just sort of send them off with the director and here, you guys do that while I'm lighting. To me, that's really, I love that. When you
Because
get an
you can
operator,
trust them at that
well,
point.
you can trust them. They're not going to like put the camera in some spot where I can't light it.
Yep.
Or something like that. So it really, that's wonderful. So I think, I like the collaboration because sometimes, look, there's so many ideas on a film set. It's too hard for one person can't come up with all the good ideas.
Yeah.
But what I love is like, say, Jody Miller, who you've interviewed for the
Yeah.
show. The beauty when I work with Jody is like, I'll say, okay, Jody, let's do this. And he'll be like, well, oh yeah, or we could do this. And then somewhere in the middle, we come up with an idea that was better than both of us.
Better than both of them, yeah.
That to me is the ideal, right?
Yeah.
If you can get to that point, but of course, Jody and I have known each other like you for years.
Well, you got
We've
the
worked together for years.
shorthand and all
We
that
got the
stuff,
shorthand. So, I think it's got to be. One thing I don't like is I don't like operators that. You got to be nice to everybody on the show. You can't be yelling at the dolly grip or yelling at the boom operator. You just can't have that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, I think that's kind of going away.
I think
it
it's
was an old
changed,
school
but
thing.
It can be out there, but yeah.
So I don't know if that answered the question. Really.
No, it absolutely did. No,
But-
I mean, and then do you expect them to be like quote unquote running the set? A
little bit, yeah.
And working with the AD.
What I want to be able to do is, now with digital especially, like, okay,
Yeah.
you're in there, you're blocking the scene, you want them there paying attention. Okay, we're going to shoot it. Say it's a guy I don't know very well. You're right with me. We're going to start here. We're going to dolly this way. The actor's going to come out, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now you take over and you work with the dolly grip. You get it set up. The best thing for a DP is when, okay, let's watch a second team rehearsal, right? And so the guy runs a second. It's always great when they've come up with something and made it better.
Yeah.
That's the hero thing,
Yep.
right? Like, oh, that was really good, but wow, this is even better than I had.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
you're like, oh, this is, this guy's good, right?
Yeah.
And I want him to be able to do the second team, and then stay on the camera. So, because a lot of times now, The light meter is the monitor. So I need the camera to
say
do
light
the
meter?
shot. So I need the light meter is
Yeah.
the monitor.
Yeah.
So I need the camera to do the shot so I can light.
Yep.
So I need someone there to be like, okay, no, show me the shot to the right. And then I got the gaffer back there. We're setting the light levels.
Yep.
So I need someone that can keep that up and then work with the second team.
Yep.
Move them all to the appropriate spots.
Yeah.
And then with the dolly grip and the first AD. So
Yeah.
I need him to be that floor general kind
Yep.
of. It's
Yeah.
definitely important.
Because I remember when you and I used to work together as when I was A, you were B. When you were A, I was B. We would go into rehearsals and we would just sort of stand in the back of the room and go, all right, if they comes around there, I can pick them up here and then we'd find out what the DP wanted. But at least we had like this map,
Yeah.
which is good as long as you can let go of it, right? Because it may not be what they have in mind at all. Now, what if you were mentioning sometimes the ideal is you can go, here, you go off with the director and figure this out, and I'm going to start lighting over here. Let's say let's say I'm new actually, and I know you, but let's say it's a new operator. You send him off, like you've just gotten, you feel like he knows what he's doing. Send him off with the director, and as they're starting to talk about it, the operator realizes that this is going off the rails really quickly and becoming something much bigger than what it is.
Yeah.
It's not what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Do they just basically excuse themselves and come back over and go, I think you got to get into this, or like, what's the best way to deal with that?
You mean they're over there with the director?
Yeah, they're over the
I
director.
mean, again, it depends on the vibe of that director, I suppose.
Yeah.
I would be like, if I was that operator, say I was the operator in that
Yeah.
situation, say,
Yeah.
hey, let me get the DP over here real quick because
Yeah.
I don't think he's thinking he's got to light that or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, hold on one second.
I just want to make sure
Hey,
we're
Jeff.
not painting ourselves into a corner or something like
Right,
that.
we
Yeah.
better get, I don't
Yeah.
think he knows this is part of it, so let's just make sure, that's what I would say. Let's
Yep.
just make sure he's on board.
Yep.
I don't want to set something up that he can't light.
Yeah, because
Or
I
that-
mean,
yeah.
as operators, you do get into that, and the other thing you get into, which I don't know if you ever had, but as an operator or a DP, is when the DP and the director aren't getting along together, and you're in the middle of it.
Oh, I've been there.
So what do you do?
Um,
It's the worst.
That's why you get the big money, as I say.
That's exactly.
It's
No,
all
but
great when everyone's getting along.
Oh yeah,
But if they're
it's
not
the
getting
worst.
along, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Because you're getting competing. I had it ruin a relationship with the DP because of it. Because
because
the
you
DP I worked with a lot because the director wanted this and he never wanted to do that, and then I would deal with the director this and I would try with the DP and it just
And you just couldn't handle it.
it just didn't. At the end, it was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Sometimes you lose is the end of the story.
Sometimes
but
you do lose.
But it's the worst. I mean, what I've always do is I just go, hey, let's all three of us get together, and then usually I'll be like, the dolly grip, come over here and listen to this because I want to witness to what's going. But it is that thing where it's like, look, and usually what I'll do is I'll go, I just don't understand what we're doing. Like, I can't figure this out. So can you guys help me figure this out for me? Because I don't know what to do because, there's too many things going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the hardest things there is.
There's no question.
And for a DP, too, with a director, it's the same. If you're not seeing eye to eye, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And then you get the actors involved and they want to do something else.
Exactly.
It's really it's the tricky part. That's the politics, right? That's where you got to, like you said, you got to figure out how to maneuver around those people that hire you and fire you, and that's
And it's the part of this that has nothing to do with operating,
No.
which is so much of operating has nothing to do with moving the camera.
100%.
It's that stuff.
I mean, I think you got to be able to move the camera, right? You got to understand
That's a
what a
given.
good shot is
Yep.
and what a bad shot is, and I think that's a big difference in Hollywood. There's people that are really good. I was kind of saying this earlier, moving the camera from A to B.
Yep.
But there's also moving the camera and also having an aesthetic sensibility. What a good frame is, because you can have a medium shot of somebody and a background behind them, and the difference of moving that actor a little bit left or right due to like some buildings in the skyline, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Or you boom down 6 inches. People always laugh, oh, it's only 6. You know what? It makes a huge difference in the frame of the shot, in the storytelling and the vibe and the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have that aesthetic sense. And some people, I don't know if you can train that. I mean, a little bit, but not necessarily, right?
I think you can coax that, but if it's not there, it's not there.
Yeah, you got to know the difference between a good-looking shot and not a great shot. And that's a different, like you're saying about A-camera operators, that's something an A-camera operator really has to have. It has to have that, you want to look at other stuff they've done and see that sensibility. Of course, it's hard to know. Maybe the DP set it up. I mean,
That's true.
You just don't know. Right?
You can only go by so much. You mentioned, though, actors. So when you were an operating, working with actors, do you have any advice for younger operators about working with difficult actors? The easy ones are the easy ones.
Yeah, the easy ones are easy and enjoyable.
Yeah.
They stand up slow, and
It's the best.
they hit their mark, and they're like enjoyable.
And you
want to
go out for a beer with them on the weekend.
Right. The bad ones are, again, I think you start out by saying very little.
Yeah.
And if I'm an operator and, for some reason the shot's not working out, say like they're not hitting their marks and you can't see the person behind them, and I would probably get off the camera and go over to the director and say, hey, this person is not, anyway, I would try and put it in their court. This actor is not hitting the mark.
Would you have tried to talk to the actor first, do you think?
It would depend on my relationship.
Depend on the relationship.
Completely.
Yep.
Of how I got along with them. And I've had all kinds. I've had ones that will do whatever I need them to do, and ones that look at me and scowl at me and think this guy's an asshole.
So as a second, you weren't telling Val where his mark was.
No. So as an operator, I would definitely, I would throw it up the ladder.
Yeah.
If it was a real problem situation.
Yep.
I've definitely had things where, it's gone horribly wrong. And, you're just like, oh, God.
Yeah, we all have. If it's an actor who's difficult, but you feel that they're approachable, how do you, what do you, when you get off the dolly and you're mentioning, you're 2 feet off the mark every time, what do you say to them?
I would do it in a sort of, I wouldn't say it like you just did.
Yeah, that's why I said it
That's
that
the
way.
difference between you and me.
Hey, what the hell? You're 2 feet off
See
the
that
mark
big
there.
red thing there? I would say, I think it would depend on the person. If I sense some vanity in them, I might say, oh, hey, if you're on that mark, the light is hitting you, just right.
Okay.
You look great.
Yeah.
Over there, I can't really see you.
Yeah.
You're dark. All actors want to be seen.
Sure.
Right. So I think that would be, I would try to nudge them onto the mark, or something like that. Or,
Gotcha.
hey, it's sorry to be a pain, but it's real. If you could get to that mark, it'd be really great because I'm trying to see the person behind you.
Yep.
Something like that. Like,
and then they come back to you and say, well, I wouldn't do that. My character wouldn't do that.
My
All
character wouldn't.
You go talk to the director for a
the funny
minute.
thing is, now that I've been a DP for quite some time, one of my favorite things to do is if it's an actor I don't really want to deal with, I send the operator in there.
I think I've been on that with you, actually.
It's one of the best parts about having a good operator who the cast likes.
Yes.
Like, say, a Jody Miller.
Yeah.
They always like Jody.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, Jody, get him on the headset. Get so-and-so onto the mark. And, so I don't have to be the bad guy all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Or these days, and I know you do this, you're often on a remote head and your second assistant is in there. So you're saying, because it's all changed so much, you're saying it's like, hey, to your second, could you have the actor remind them to hit the mark? And so then the second gets stuck.
It does,
right?
It all
Come
rolls
on, I know you've
downhill.
done it. I know you've done it.
At the end of the day, the craft service guy is coming in and going, I know you've never met me before.
But could you hit your mark?
These guys want you to hit your mark.
Could you stand up a little slower?
That's absolutely
right. We got
right.
this 50-foot technocrane and it doesn't boom up that quick.
What about working with dolly grips when you were an operator?
Oh my God, dolly grips are worth their weight in gold. Of
Absolutely,
course. The good ones are. If you're a good one, the operator's job is almost halfway over.
We've both recently done several jobs with Steve Hubble, and that's a perfect example of just
an amazing guy,
a storyteller, and an amazing dolly grip.
I think that if you have a good dolly grip, they know where to move the camera, they know when to move the camera, they know how to set up the camera. I mean, it was so much harder in the old days. Like, I remember I did this show, Black Snake Moan, years ago. With Amy Vincent was the DP, and I was the operator. And
was Lauren Yaconelli on that? Did I just talk to her? I just talked to someone about Black Snake Moan. Anyway,
I don't think
Amy
so.
Vincent was the operator.
Jamie
on
Fells
that?
was my assistant, but Amy was the DP.
Amy was the DP.
I was the operator.
Oh, Amy shot that. Yes,
Amy shot that.
That's
and
right.
I remember it was the film days, Panavision. And my back was out because I just had a kid, and everything was the dolly grip. Everything was on a lambda head low mode, it seemed like, and you're bending over, and you had to keep the eye to the eyepiece.
Oh, God,
and then
I
it
remember
boomed
those
up,
days.
and you had to squat. And it's gotten a lot easier now. These days, you put a remote head on, and you wouldn't
there's
even
no
bother.
question about it. Or even if you don't, you're 6 feet away from the monitor with
Right.
your hand extended to the thing.
So much easier. And so in those, especially the dolly grip, really had to set the camera up on the dolly in a way where you could finish the shot in
Yep.
a comfortable position.
Yeah.
So it's gotten, and it's just into. I worked with a guy, Carlos Gallardo, for years, who's retired, but it was an amazing dolly grip, and he took care of the operator.
They'll do half of your job for you without you even knowing sometimes.
Yeah, and I think if you're a young operator, getting yourself a good dolly grip is huge, and it's always hard because often you're stuck on B camera, and a lot of times the B camera dolly grip is not necessarily a dolly grip.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're someone who just got promoted or
the
whatever.
flip side is if you have a B camera dolly grip who happens to be good, they're not going to be a B camera dolly grip for long because they're going to get some show as an A camera
Right,
dolly grip.
right,
So it's just
right.
it's a way station, you know.
It's kind of it's like if you're a new operator, you want to get yourself the best dolly grip you
Yeah,
can come up
and
with.
and the thing is, when you were a new operator, did you basically do the same thing that you said? It's just like you kind of shut up and just let the dolly grip do what they think is right.
I mean, I think it just depended on who the dolly grip was.
Yeah.
And what the show was. It was so long ago, honestly, when I was
Sure.
a new operator, it's hard to
Yeah.
it's hard to remember. The worst situations were you'd get a day call and you'd go out on some TV show as the B camera guy and no one knows you.
Yep.
And the DP doesn't know you, and no one knows you, and then they're not very friendly to you, and then you're just thrown into something where they put you on some screaming long lens, and some guy busts out of a door, and you don't know the head height, and you don't know anybody, you don't know the first AD's name, and you're just
Are you
like
flashing back right now?
desperately trying to figure out what they want from you.
Yeah.
And and sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you don't.
That's the
I can think of quite a few.
That's the truth.
examples
No,
of that.
but I know what
But
you mean.
that's the worst.
Yeah, and then you're driving home and you're like, I'm not getting called back for that.
And
show.
sometimes they loved your work and
That's
you
the
thought
way
you
it is.
did terrible.
Yeah.
But I do, on my shows now, I try and be like, when someone new comes onto the show, I try and be like, hey, welcome, thanks for coming. You're on B camera. This is your assistant. Or you're on C camera. You're going to be up in that condor.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Because
Yeah.
I hate that. I always hated that feeling of showing up and not knowing anybody. You try and welcome the person.
Yeah, that's great.
And then when they screw up,
nice.
then you know the next time.
Then you know their names, so you can tell them they're not coming back.
Exactly.
That's great. When you look at A camera operators who are not what you want them to be, what are the deficiencies that you've seen that make them not be great at
Well, I'm
A
trying
camera
to remember the
operators?
last time you did a camera for me.
See how I set you up for that?
What was it that bugged me about you?
Well, let's see.
Let me go.
There's
Hold on. Let me get the calculator out.
I had a list somewhere. There's the incessant talking. That's a problem. There's the
I've been very lucky. I've had, in the 7-8 years I've been shooting, I've had the best A camera operators.
Oh,
I
well,
mean, literally.
That's good.
I can think of one person who I won't name on one show that I did that I was not thrilled with.
But do you remember why though?
There were numerous things.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we would do a shot, and I would set it up for him. I'd say, okay, I want you to end on this frame.
Yeah.
Say a dolly shot or something. You come across, I want you to end right here. And I tell you, oh, yeah, Jeff, oh, yeah. And he would do the shot, and it would not be that frame.
It'd just be totally different.
Not even total. It tilted up, pan
Yeah,
left,
yeah,
down.
yeah,
I mean, it'd be different.
Yeah.
Right? And it'd be something where I want you to come in, boom.
It's
right
important to lock. Yeah.
Here. I want you
Hit
need
the
to land
frame.
here.
Yep.
And it'd be like, because you only have so many shots at it. Right?
Exactly.
And the director after a while is going, that was great, moving on.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going,
It wasn't
this
what I
guy
wanted.
just hosed me.
I gotcha.
So it's very, that drives me nuts.
Yep.
When you give someone a specific instruction.
Yeah.
What was the question? Things that bug me about
Well, the
a
reason
camera
I
guy?
ask it is not. I think it's almost in a weird way for people who are in the process of moving up or want to move up or whatever. It's almost easy. It's a little easier to go, I know what I need to do. It's almost a little harder to go, what are the pitfalls that I should avoid? But that's a great one. Is basically like, look, especially if you got a director DP who's not giving you a ton of notes.
Yeah.
If they give you a note,
You got to nail it.
internalize it and nail it. Yeah, absolutely.
Or if they're a younger person and you got me, the hard thing sometimes for me is I was a DP operator for 15 years. I know how to do the shot, and if I got a young person in there,
Yeah.
it's like, don't fight with me over how the best way to do the shot is.
In other words, if you say, let's throw this on a lambda head, and they're like, no, I think I can get it on it.
No.
It's just
Yeah,
listen and do it on a lambda head.
Right,
Yeah.
do it this way, because I'm 95% sure I know the way to get the
Yeah,
shot,
yeah,
right? That's not being said. If it's you or Jody, I wouldn't even get involved in that.
Sure,
I
of
would
course
just be
not.
like, you guys figure it
Go
out.
figure it out. Yeah.
Right, but if
Yeah.
it's a newer person, then it's like, here, I think this is what you should do, and I'll try and help them.
Yep.
and hopefully they're responding and listening to that help.
By the way, and there's another part to that whereas, and I can't think of a situation where you would have done this, but if it was me and we were talking about it and I realized that you're like, you got 12 things pulling you 6 different directions, and you go, just put it on the Lambda head, get it there. It may not be the way I want to do it, but as long as I can do it that way and there's no downside to it, I probably would just do it because I realize that you're saying it because you're getting pulled 15 ways and you don't want to turn around and go, I thought we were putting this on the Lambda head, and then So sometimes you even sort of take the bullet as long as it doesn't affect the final outcome.
Yeah, and your question about difference between B camera and A camera, I mean. So in the perfect world, like we were talking about before, you have a B camera that is really you have. The perfect world is 2A camera.
It's 2A camera operators,
right.
100%.
That's when I had like say Jody and Patrick Rousseau.
Yep.
We did shots where Jody would pass the camera to Patrick.
That was on Snowfall.
That was on Goliath. On Goliath, we did
weren't they both on Snowfall too?
They were both on Snowfall too.
Yeah.
I had both of them for both, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I could send. The other thing it really gives you the advantage of, which you can't do with a younger B camera operator, is I like to leapfrog on it, honestly. And you'll say like, okay, so Jody's in here. Patrick, we're going to be in that set next.
Yep.
So get the camera over there. I'll give him a little rough thing.
Yeah.
And set up a shot.
Yep.
And when you got someone like that, you come in, this is great. It's halfway done, and we're moving over there. And it's like, especially in the TV schedule world where you have to do that, that gives you the best chance of getting good work.
Well, we're here in the studio because you were timing Dark Matters, and actually we looked at that shot. I remember specifically, I was out there in Chicago with C camera.
Yeah.
And you sent me ahead to the library while you guys were outside with a techno crane to set up a shot, and I think you guys even gave me a frame from the Scout or something. I don't remember what it was. And we set it up, and I think it
was a complex shot.
It was a complex shot, and I think what we did was we set it up, we recorded it, and then we brought it back down while you guys were still there and said, is this what you want? You tweaked it a little. And then by the time you got up there, it was just like, all right, let's get the actor in place and let's go.
Yeah.
That totally,
and if I didn't have you, if I had somebody who was, say, a newer operator, I would never have done that.
Yeah.
I never would have sent them over there, and it would have cost time.
Yeah.
Because we would have had to go over there and set it up with the A camera person.
Yep.
Because that was a shot on a remote head, and you had to do almost a 360 pan around while you're booming up.
It was also very specifically architectural. So if you put the bass in the wrong place to begin with, you're like, come up and it's 45 minutes till you're.
And we just watched it. It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
So that is a big part of it. Like in the perfect world, you have 2 people that you can really move them around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, as a DP, you're thinking, okay, we're going to go over there and do that shot next, but I'd send my beat person to set it up, but they can't really, I know they can't operate that shot.
Yep.
So then it adds another layer in my head of, oh shit, so I got to just leave the B camera. And sometimes the ADs, they love to get involved in that. Why don't we just put the B camera over there? It's like, okay, but then I get the camera body, but then I got to tell the B guy that the A guy is going to do the shot with the B assistants, and it just turns into a cluster.
Yep.
And people start feeling bad, and then once someone starts feeling bad, then their work, it's even harder to, once it's
and the other thing that you said about that it makes me think about is, when you have 2A camera operators, it's also like if you have 2 competing shots where one's, boning the other one, there's going to be that moment where, okay, you know what? Why don't you pull back on this one? Let me get this, and as soon as I get 1 or 2 the director likes, I'll pull back and give you that. There's no ego involved.
Right.
It's sort of like we're both doing good work.
Right.
I am going to say one word, and then I'm going to ask you to just go with what your gut is.
Oh God.
Sliders.
Sliders are great.
That's what you're going to give me?
I can go on more and more. I think that, look, a slider is tricky. It's not an easy thing. Another thing for a new operator, like, it's doing a good slider move can be very hard.
Oh, yeah.
Really hard. And I would avoid it mostly. It's kind of become something, just put a slider on. It's if you want to do a really classic nice shot.
It's not the same as a dolly move.
It's not the same as a dolly move. And especially if you're panning and sliding, it's very hard to do well because it's not like, I've done them, we both have. So it really, and I've also, here's another thing, maybe this is what you're going after, is on someone as a newer B camera, they'll put a slider on. I've had to do this on a couple shows I did Jack Ryan in Budapest that was another Jack Ryan
Oh, that's
season
right.
3
Yeah.
I shot.
Yep.
And I had an operator that wasn't super seasoned, and I had to take the slider away because every time I would look at the shot, it was sliding. And it's like, look, the slider to me, I mean, every show's different, is not just to slide, it's to do a shot.
Yeah.
And nothing makes me crazier personally than the camera going all over the place. So just, they think that like, oh, I got the slider here, so I might as well slide.
See, I figured if I said that, you would eventually get worked up into where you are right now. Well, the bottom line is just because you have it on there doesn't mean it needs to move. The question is not that you can move, but why are you moving? And what's the point of it?
Right. It's got to be a point. You
Yeah.
got to be telling the story
Yeah.
or moving the camera. I mean, the one piece of equipment that, really you shouldn't allow on a set is when people try and take old, like, kitchen utensils and turn them into highly expensive pieces of camera motion equipment. Now that's
Are you possibly talking about the camwalk, which is revered all over the country, and people are used. Yeah,
I mean, if you're going
to
to use it on set, make sure you get some nice oil in there in case it doesn't
exactly
rust.
Right. Yeah, I have actually. This is the first time the camwalk has ever been mentioned on this podcast.
Come on,
and
I
I'm
fed you.
glad
I fed it beautifully.
You did it very nicely. For anybody who doesn't know, the camwalk is something that actually Patrick Rousseau introduced me to. But I found out that as far back as Dukes of Hazzard, the TV show, there was someone who took an old wok and took a 2x4 and cut it and nailed it in the sides.
that's the
Because the thing is,
person.
you can get it on the bottom, you can get it very low, and you can do some cool stuff with it. And Patrick was the king of it. And I asked him where he got it, and he said, I don't know.
What is it? Camwalk.com? Should we plug it?
You can thank you very much. I think it's camwalk.com or camwalknation.com or something like that. Anyway, but for the record, all of the money all the proceeds go to charity. So, but it's a cool little thing, So there you go. Were you DPing on film?
Just a very little bit.
Not once you did the full jump.
I shot 2 or 3 little indie movies, some shorts and stuff like that.
But you weren't a full-fledged DP yet.
No.
But you were an operator when we went from film to
Yes.
digital. Do you think that changed things?
Well, I mean, I think it changed a lot. I mean, as you know, like you're operating off a monitor.
Yeah.
So you're not, like we were talking about before, you're not bent over in some horrible, uncomfortable position, trying to get the shot. I think it's, a lot at the beginning, I remember people like, oh, it's not the same. You're not looking through the eyepiece. And I agree that's true in some ways. Like there's something really romantic about you looking through the eyepiece and the shutters going, and you're in the cinema basically when you're in there, right?
Absolutely.
But then again, you can't really take your eye off the eyepiece to see what's coming and when you're going to pan and get ready for the pan. So in some ways, I think your operating is better.
Because you have both eyes out, so you can see stuff
you
looking
can
at a
see.
monitor.
I mean, you're a Steadicam operator. You operate off a monitor
To me,
your
it
whole life.
was
It's
no big deal.
That's
yeah.
what the thing that always threw me is I know a lot of Steadicam operators that when video came out, they wanted to use an eyepiece, which I thought was really strange because I would think that they were used to.
You're used to it. I actually miss using an eyepiece. I do sometimes, but I don't that much.
I mean, I think for DPs, the difference is huge.
Just because
video.
what you see is what you get.
Well, because I can be so precise in the color, in the density of the color, but because I've got this beautiful 24-inch monitor that is exactly how it's going to look.
And you can probably light closer to the edge of acceptability. You would have been more careful.
Oh, I can put it right in the dumper, just on the edge, and you know exactly where that is. Whereas in film, I mean, of course, the guys were great at it; they knew, but you can really, I think, you see it in shows now where you get a lot of color and good use of color.
Yeah.
And you have the iPad and you can, at the last minute, you can change, you bring that one up, make that one a little redder. Okay, now this one a little warmer and a little bluer, and right up like, and action. And you're like, okay, stop. You know what I mean? And you can do a lot with a little bit of time, and you know exactly what it's going to look like.
You know exactly what
and
you're
I
getting.
come in here with Pankaj in the color timing room, and it looks exactly like I shot it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite amazing.
That's huge. But as an operator, it's this difference, I think, of an eyepiece and a monitor for the most part.
I think the biggest thing is that when I'm on the wheels, I used to be able to sleep during the shot.
You still do that.
Yeah. Well, no, but when you're using a monitor, if you sleep, your head's not up against something.
Well,
so
you could just rest your eye. You
Well,
just
yeah,
close
yeah,
both
exactly.
eyes and rest your eye. Yeah,
On the monitor. It doesn't
people
work
think
as
you're
well.
really paying attention.
Wow, he's really into it. Yeah, he's got his mouth open. He's so shocked. Yeah. Well, Jeff, this has really been fantastic. I'm glad I finally got to talk to you.
Yeah,
It
this
pains
is
me
good.
to say, yeah, like I said, you were one of the better operators that I worked with, and now one of the better DPs, and that's
you,
really
buddy.
only because I
I
want the next
appreciate it.
job.
It's been a long strike.
Yeah. That's been a long time. If we had done this while I was working, none of this would have been complimentary. But I'll leave you with the final question that I
Yeah.
leave everybody with.
Okay.
Someone getting into the business.
Yeah.
Someone moving up, B camera to A camera, or Jeff Greeley 25 years ago. What advice would you give those people on how to succeed in this business?
I think, like, say, I get a lot of people that are young, want to be DPs, young DPs. And I think it's important for a young DP to work on a set a bit, as an assistant maybe as an operator, but then just shoot. Operate and shoot for yourself. I think you learn so much doing that, especially if you want to be a DP. Like, I spent a lot of time as an assistant, 10 years as an assistant, 15 years as an operator. Now, 7 or 8 as a DP. I wanted to be a DP much sooner. But I think if you're young now and that's what you want to do, you just got to get out and you go to film school maybe, you work on a set a little bit, and you shoot as much as you can. You just shoot. You shoot some film, you shoot video, you shoot different cameras. You have friends that are making low-budget movies, and while you're young, you do those. And I think, and you operate at the same time while you're doing them. That way, it's kind of preparing you for operating. You're getting experience, because as you know, the more you do it, the better we get. This job is not something you can really learn in film school. It maybe preps you a little bit. Like, I didn't go to film school, so I don't really know, but I think you have to do this job by doing it. And I think do it. If you want to be an operator, go out and operate. I mean, operate on a low budget, operate on whatever you can get your hands on, because you're going to learn. And if you're smart, you're like, oh, this is a good frame, that's not so great, this tells the story. That doesn't tell the story.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.